Hi, are you kinky? Do you want to be more kinky? Do you wish your partner were more kinky? Do you just want to have some more fun and adventure in your sex life? Well, I'm going to be talking about those things today. I'm Dr. Lori Buckley. I'm a sex therapist, and stay tuned. We're going to be addressing all of those things in today's video. What is kinky sex? It's a good question. It really depends on who you're asking. Ultimately, kinky sex is usually people who are doing the things or the sexual things that you are not doing. In other words, it just seems a bit out of the ordinary, maybe a little bit over the top, or maybe a lot over the top. So oftentimes when people are thinking about adding some kink into their sex life or having some desire to have some kink into their sex life, they don't necessarily know how to do that. Certainly, how do you bring it up with your partner? You know, it could be embarrassing. You might be judged. It might feel a little bit scary. But I'm going to say if you have traditionally been having sex the same way with either one partner or many partners, there's lots of things you can do to add a little kink. And you can add a little kink or you can add a lot of kink. So oftentimes when people think of kink, they think of power play or BDSM. I actually like the term power play because it generally just means one person is more dominant and one person is more submissive. BDSM might be a little bit more at the other end of the continuum. It could stand for bondage, dominance, submission or sadism, and then M is for masochism. And masochism sounds like such a strong word, but it just means we might like a little bit of pain. It doesn't mean that we're being hurt. When we are in an aroused state, generally some kind of pain, whether it's spanking or maybe a little whipping, it actually can feel good when we are aroused. And so it is in the context of sexual arousal. And ultimately it's power plays. And if you think about it, most of us have some power play in our sex lives anyways. So it's just maybe bringing it a little bit more to the forefront or amping it up a bit. So ask yourself, are you somebody who generally likes to dominate and have your partner be more passive or submissive? Or do you like being dominated and do you like being more passive and submissive? And figure out what that is. Sometimes we can go both ways. We can switch. We can enjoy a little bit of both, and that's nice. But what is the one that when you have fantasies, the theme that you generally go to? And oftentimes when we think about our fantasies, the theme of those fantasies will tell us what our general turn-ons are when it comes to kinky sex or power play. So if you like being more submissive, can you add that into your sex life? And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be tied up or gagged or blindfolded, although it could, but you could start out very small, very simply, and you could just ask your partner to hold your hands down with their hands. Or you could just be blindfolded. So that would be on the lesser end of the spectrum. But if you do want to go further along, you could ask to be tied. You could ask to have your partner take total control. But if you are going to go into some kind of power play, especially if you're using any kind of restraints or any kind of physical activity that could hurt in a way that you don't like, you want to have a safe word. So we've all heard about the safe word, but it actually is really, really important. Before you even have this kind of sex, you need to have some conversations with your partner. One, make sure that it's a partner that you feel safe with, that you know well, and that you can trust. That is a very important thing. You want to make sure that you are safe. You want to make sure that it is consensual. Those are really two important things if you're going to engage in any kind of power play or kinky sex. So having those conversations. What are your boundaries? What's okay? What's not okay? That's important to talk about. What you feel okay with, what you don't feel okay with. Having some kind of safe word or even a signal that your partner knows if you say that word or you use that signal, everything stops. No questions asked, everything stops. There needs to be that trust that your partner is going to honor that and that you two can agree on that. Use a word that you wouldn't use in normal play. You don't want the word to be no stop. You know, sometimes that can be part of the power play. No, stop, please don't. Now, If you know you're engaging in power play, you can trust this person and you have the safe word, you can say that and your partner knows that you don't actually mean it. It is part of what you're doing. We don't ever want to say no and not mean it unless we have already talked about that. That's so important. So have the conversation. What would you like to try? I would like you to just dominate me and take control and tell me what to do. And I will do it. And if it's something I don't want to do, I won't, or I will use the signal word or the hand signal. You know, the hand signal can be anything. It could be tapping on your head. If you're restrained, obviously you can't use a hand signal. That's why you want to have a hand signal and you want to have a verbal signal. And again, make sure that it is safe. So let's say you enjoy being more dominant. Have that conversation with your partner. Find out, what are your partner's boundaries? What's okay, what's not okay? You know, you want to play around and try some different things. And it doesn't have to be with ropes and ties. Again, it can be just you holding your partner's wrist down. It could be you just ordering your partner around, saying, do not talk, do not move. I am in control here, and you do what I say. And that is power play without any kind of physical restraint, but it is emotional power play, and it can be highly, highly erotic. So these are ways that you can get into some kink, which can be really fun. Now there's also some great sex toys and things that you can use. So adding a sex toy that you haven't done before is also another way to add some kink into your relationship. Anal play is one that a lot of people think of when they think of kinky sex. It could be using a butt plug. It could be analingus, using your tongue. There's a lot of different ways that you can do something a bit more than what you've done before that will definitely feel that you are amping up your kink, and it can really make it much more exciting. There's so many fun things that you can do. And one really great thing about adding some kink into your sex life and into your relationship is it does really promote some really hot conversations. And it could be making a list, writing down a list of things that you would like to try. Have both of you do that. Write out the list of fantasies that you have, things that you would like to try to do with one another. And you can each look at the list, and if there are things that you absolutely, absolutely don't want to do, you can cross those off the list. There might be some things on your partner's list that could be a maybe. They just need to be discussed a bit further, and those are important ones too. And remember, with fantasy, oftentimes we can have fantasies that really turn us on and arouse us, but we don't necessarily want to do it. So for example, let's say you or your partner has a fantasy of having a threesome. Now, in fantasy, that sounds great. It's really arousing, but you don't necessarily want to add a third person into your sex life. If you do, that's another conversation. But if you don't actually want to have a third person there, you can still act it out. You can play it out and talk it out when you are in bed with your partner. So I know you want to have sex with another woman. What is she going to look like? How are we going to find her? Be careful of this, because if you are a partner of somebody and you're talking about a fantasy, you do not want to talk about a real person. That could be a problem, and it could be dangerous. So talk about a person that you don't know, just a general person, and then talk it out. It's like, okay, so we're gonna talk to her and we'll bring her home, and then what? What do you want her to do? What do you want her to do to me? What do you want me to do to her? What do you want to see happen? And you could be having sex and talking it out and playing it out and pretending that it actually is happening. Another way to add kink, and no regrets. Sometimes we might have the best of intentions. We think, oh, that sounds so hot. That sounds so exciting. Yes, let's bring in that third person. You might have regrets. When you're acting it out, I'm going to say the chances of regrets go way, way down. Now, what about some physical activity? Maybe some spanking, or maybe using a whip. And this might be amping it up a little bit, going towards another end of the spectrum. Still relatively minor, but you know, it's a great way to start. And if spanking is something that you've always fantasized about, it could be a great thing to add into your sex life and try. You want to have those conversations, but not only that, when you are experimenting, you want to start out very, very slow and very light and then work your way up. And you want to find out what is your partner's or your pain threshold. So start out lightly and then get a little bit harder until your partner says the signal word. Then you know to stop. So that can really be fun too. And it is trying these things to see what you like. You may not know, you may think you know, you may think you would like it and then you don't, or you may think that you won't like it, but then you do. So have an open mind, have the conversations, have the safe word, and there's no limit. You really can have some fun. And the only limits are the ones that you put on yourself. So have some fun. And if you want to watch some porn, get some ideas, you know, that's an idea too. That by itself, just watching porn together could be considered kinky if that's not something that you have done before. And there is some good porn out there. It's not always objectifying women. As a matter of fact, there's some great porn that is produced by women for women. There's also real couples out there. And there is a great website called Dipsea, Dipsea. I'll put the link below, where you can listen to audio porn. And that's kind of fun. You can look up whatever your theme is and you can listen to it together. And something about audio, just like reading a book sometimes as opposed to watching a movie, gives you more room for your imagination. And that can work really, really well. So that's a fun resource and it might be worth checking out. There's so many great resources. Go online, do some Googling, have some conversations. What have you always wanted to try? What is a fantasy you have? Here's something I've been thinking of that I would like to try with you. And when you put it that way, what I would like to try with you, it's making a request, it's saying it's with you, and it's making it personal. And I'm going to say the conversations you have can be just as exciting, sometimes maybe even more, than the act itself. So another way to add some kink is with role play. We've all heard the stories, but role play can be so exciting. So it could be the teacher and the student who needs an A. It could be the police officer and the person who's getting a ticket who doesn't want a ticket. It could be the pizza delivery guy. I know it's a cliche, but you know, it's a good one. And I've had some couples that I've worked with who have gotten very creative and they've dressed up and they really have gotten into these roles. And oftentimes when we do the role play, we can start to laugh. It can feel kind of silly, but that's okay. But stay in character. And when you stay in character, you might start out a little giggly, but you can get serious about it and it can be so much fun. So we've talked about power play, erotica, fantasies, role plays, sex toys. These are all great ways to add some kink into your relationship. And if you're already kinky, well, maybe there's some things that you haven't tried yet that you might want to try. You have your safe word, you have your signal, you know that it is going to be a safe and fun experience. Erotic, arousing, well, you're only going to know unless you try it. And you will find things that you don't particularly like, or maybe that you just want to switch up a bit, but you will also discover some things that you do like, and you can incorporate that. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button or that like button if you're enjoying these videos. It does help support the channel, and I love being able to give you these videos and give you information to help you have better relationships, better sex, and a better life. It really does mean everything to me. Please write your comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you next week. Bye.